For the month of April. At this time, the meeting is called to order at 7 p.m. and if we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Madam. Okay, I'll wait for the brother. Oh, did you? Okay. So while we're getting ready for roll call, let me just share that we are piloting a program amongst ourselves today to start to see some efficiency. So we are no longer going to print our packets. We are all going to use laptops that are loaned to us from the library. We will return them after each meeting, and they are preloaded with the agenda and packets for this evening. So, Councilor Fleming, I only requested 6 because I have a device, and I know you generally bring a device. But going forward, if you prefer, we would have one for you as well.
No, I left it only because I got the email saying we would have some here.
Okay, understood. So VP and I will share. So that is what we're doing this evening. We are looking for just ways to be more efficient and greener. So councilors, if you have any issues, ask Troy. And to the public, that's why you see us up here without our paper this evening and with these devices. Okay. Madam Borough Manager, can we have a roll call, please? Present. My apologies. Councilor Felder?
Present.
Councilor Brabham? Present. Councilor Smith?
Present.
Councilor Fleming?
Present.
Councilor Patrick?
Present.
Mayor Booker?
Present.
Solicitor Miller?
Present.
Treasurer Morgan is absent. Code Official Collins? Police Chief Heron?
I'll be over in a moment.
And Borough Manager is present. You have a quorum, Madam President. Thank you very much. Councilors, we talked at the last meeting about the land bank, the Delco land bank, and I told you that we would have someone here to give us more detail tonight. So I would like to welcome Ms. Laura Goodrich-Kearns to join us and share about the land bank and how it works and how it can benefit the borough. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, members of council, and Mr. Mayor. Just for a little bit of background, my name is Laura Goodrich-Kearns. I'm here tonight in my capacity as Executive Director for the Delaware County Redevelopment Authority. In 2022, our Redevelopment Authority Board sought to increase programs and tools specifically to assist municipalities with blighted, vacant property throughout Delaware County. The board focused initially on 3 key initiatives: APA funding to help clean contaminated ground, Act 135, which is a conservatorship program allowable under PA statute, and establishing a land bank. Each of these are separate tools we use in working with our municipalities to assist them in addressing blighted, vacant properties that have a negative impact on community development and your residents' quality of life. For the first time in decades with EPA funds, the Delaware County Redevelopment Authority has funding to assist with identifying contaminated property and an ability to finance and clean up with a low-cost, low-interest loan. We can do a lot of things in Delaware County, but we have not figured out how to make more ground. So we need to be good stewards of what we do have. Then we began partnering with municipalities on Act 135 conservatorships. This PA legislation allows us to address properties that present consistent code violations. Vacant housing or commercial properties that are not maintained can cause additional health issues from overgrown vegetation or even hoarding situations. We're using Act 135 to address these hazardous conditions that increase the quality of life for immediate neighborhoods. And we're doing this right now in a pilot program with your neighboring Yaden Borough. With NJN, your same management system. So, and then lastly, we did ask Delaware County to name the Redevelopment Authority the land bank for Delaware County as well. And why? Land bank sounds like a power, but it's not, it's a tool. The biggest benefit to the land bank is when a property is listed for judicial sale, the land bank has the ability to obtain it without going through an auction process. I know you are all familiar as elected officials, but just for the audience's understanding, there are several different types of real estate sales that happen through a court process. The one that we hear the most about are mortgage foreclosures. It's when somebody fails to consistently pay the loan on a property, and then the bank will take them to court in order to repossess that property. We're not talking about a foreclosure sale. We're talking about where a property owner has not paid real estate tax. And for municipalities, your prime source of income is through that real estate tax. So if you're paying your real estate tax but your neighbor isn't, it becomes a problem because it becomes a burden for the rest of the community. After 2 years, it can go for something called an upset sale, and after 4 years of non-payment, it goes to what's called a judicial sale. The judicial sales are those property sales are auctions, and the judicial sale attracts quite a bit of attention because a property acquired through a judicial sale can go through a process to wipe off all the liens, including outstanding taxes and any mortgages. The reason RDA asked for a land bank in 22 is because we witnessed 2 municipalities in Delaware County go after properties in their own backyards in a judicial sale. They had no other option in order to acquire those properties except to go in and bid against every other person in the room for those properties. The first one was Concord Township, who arguably has a very well-heeled, well-balanced count because they are a township and they do have a higher income. They were successful, but they had to pay quite a bit of taxpayer money in order to go after and acquire that parcel. The second one was Nether Providence. There is a smaller than a 2-acre parcel that sits near a residential neighborhood. The topography will not allow it in order to be built. The municipality has no intentions of changing the zoning on that parcel. They were going to acquire it through this sale process in order to make it a trailhead or a dog park so that residents could enjoy it because it's not going to be fit for anything else. They went in, they had the ability and the pre-approval from their government to bid up to $15,000. The outstanding tax on the property was $3,000. The end bid price was $140,000. Nether Providence did not get that parcel. And the purchaser, the highest bidder, did not come in the next day to buy it, and it fell back to the original owner, and they filed in the same cycle again. The current owner of that parcel is not somebody who lives in Nether Providence Township. It is a speculator who thinks that they're going to be able to build a house one day on it. We thought it was amazing that the only option for municipalities in Delaware County to gain control of a property in their own jurisdiction that goes through this tax sale process is to bid against the general public using tax dollars. Through the land bank as our partner, we can acquire properties for a low pre-negotiated rate with the county, which is all of like $3,000, any property. If the land bank truly has power, it is that we're able to use this program to empower the municipality with the ability to determine the future landscape of your own town. We spent much of 22 through 2023 working with community partners, municipal officials, school district officials, county, nonprofit community providers that you know, developing recommended policies for the land bank, policies which have been shared with you. Our land bank is municipal-led in that we position this work where it necessitates us to work with you to determine what happens to those parcels. Depending upon your zoning, depending upon whether or not you want to redevelop straight away, depending upon whether or not you want to hold that parcel to do a larger redevelopment plan, or to change the use. So, what happens over time is that you find that you would like to change the zoning in an area, and perhaps this should be commercial as opposed to residential, and there's a residential property that then we can flip into a commercial purpose. Those are just some of the examples, but the reasoning comes from the municipality, it doesn't come from the redevelopment authority. In conclusion, we're hopefully you'll partner with us on the land bank to join us in assisting in maintaining your quality of life. I am happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time, or President Allen knows how to reach me if there's any questions even after this meeting.
Thank you, Laura. Councilors, do you have any questions for Laura?
I have a couple of questions. Thank you for the presentation. This sounds like a great tool. You said twice that this was about blighted and vacant properties, but when I read the document, it actually had that you're also looking for properties that could be occupied. Would we be able to alter the contract that was sent over to us?
I'm not sure where you're referencing, and maybe Mr. Miller can find it, but basically we are looking to put these parcels back into productive use. So we're not interested in going after any home occupied parcel where somebody is living there. If it is that this property, or if it, like, let's talk residential, because I think that makes it a little easier, right? So if it's a vacant house that is sitting there, mail's piling up, you've got roof leaks, all the rest of it, and nobody's living there, but there are people next door, yes, we'd like to go after that. We'd like to bring that up to code. We would like to see that put back into productive use and become a productive, parcel within your economy. So yes, you want to see somebody eventually living there, but there's no intent to go after a occupied home and take that away from somebody, if that's what you're referring to.
So would we be able to alter that language that's in the contract?
If you're suggesting that the language in the contract states that we're able to go after occupied housing, yes, but I don't believe that exists.
It says that. Two other questions. One is I asked for a list of our vacant and blighted properties because this is a great tool if we had that as a problem. I'm trying to figure out what's the nature of our problem and are we trying to retrofit a tool? We also have the MSR, and I looked at 100 tax delinquencies for the borough and they were very small. So if we already have a tool that addresses that in terms of our cash flow for tax delinquency, why would we need to use the land bank?
You have two properties currently on the judicial sale list for May 15th. One of them is owner occupied, I do believe, and has been removed from that list. The other one is not. It is considered an investment property. So this presents an opportunity for the municipality in that instance to be able to control the future use of that site.
Is there a way for us to do, since it's only one property that we're thinking about, to do that without signing a contract for land bank?
Sure, but you'll be going into that judicial sale and basically bidding up against the other 100 bidders that will be there as well, and using taxpayer dollars to do so.
One other question, I wondered about the timing. I really don't know the timing, but how does this factor into the 6 borough redevelopment process that's happening or pending to happen? Because redevelopment is a big thing that's about to happen here, and acquiring property as an asset. And I think like handing it over, for me, I've just been skeptical about it because it is a great tool if we have a high rate of vacancy and blighted properties. We don't have that. So it just feels like we're trying to retrofit a tool that's not necessarily needed.
Land bank, the biggest opportunity with land bank as a tool is to be able to go after those judicial sale properties. You currently have 2 of them that are still on the rolls. One of them is, my understanding, being taken off, and the other one is an investment property that hasn't been put to use and you don't get the taxes on it.
So we could technically do it just for those 2 properties. Could
You
we?
join the land bank just specifically for those properties
Yeah.
and then exit it? That seems a little short-sighted. There's a judicial sale twice a year. The first one is in May, then the second one is any leftover properties that go for a second sale in December. It's a continual issue. So even though that there's 2 properties on that judicial sale list this year, you don't know what's going to happen next year and how many properties may end up on the judicial list next year. I don't know that you want to find yourself doing this on an annual basis. Right?
Yeah. I just ask the councilors to really think about, if you look at the list of our residents who are delinquent in taxes, the rate is really low. And it's more like they're late, probably for one reason or another. It's not a high rate where people are multiple thousands. I think the highest I saw, which was an outlier, was about $8,000. And it was not, I think the average was about somewhere around 1,500, 2,000 that people are late. So just thinking about this as a tool, I think it is excellent if we had a bigger problem. I'm not sure if the tool is necessarily the perfect tool for us right now.
Dr. Fleming, and what I heard from you there in response is that you have residents that are behind on their taxes. And again, I would stress for you that we are not interested in going after residentially owned and occupied property. We are only talking about those that are not in use, that are not being utilized, that do not have residents in them or not being used appropriately. And these are not folks that live in town.
And I would ask
Council, I'm sorry, this is loud, sorry, Councilor Fleming, I'd like to give an opportunity for others, if there are other questions, like Laura said, she'll
Can I
make
finish
herself
this
accept.
statement first?
Yeah, she'll make
I'd like
herself
to ask
available,
Solicitor.
councilors.
Well, I think this is the caucus, and this is when we're supposed to discuss these.
Right, but we need to give other councilors also an opportunity to have questions
Okay,
with Laura
So,
when she's here.
Solicitor, I'd love to know what you thought about the language, because I did see a clause around being able to get properties that could be put back on the market quick. I think that's the way you work on putting
If we
productive
do that,
use. That's the way
right,
you
to
use.
productive use. So that would be based upon, so if when we enter into these, what we do is we work with the municipality to say, what does your zoning look like? What do you want to do? Is this a one-off property, or are there multiple properties? Are you trying to create a redevelopment authority area to be able to redevelop an entire area, which you sort of referenced you are in the process of doing? If in the instances, like for instance on 135, which we have done, that is more of a mano a mano. You can't necessarily change those properties. So we do work to bring them back up to code appropriately so that yes, they are sold and put back into productive use, because that's where we start with intent and that's where we end with intent. That intent comes from the municipal leadership. It does not come from us.
Thank you. Councilors, are there any other questions for Laura?
Yeah, I have a question.
Thank you.
Okay, I get the scope of the process. My concern is there going to be an opportunity for the borough to capture revenue as far as taxes
Right.
annually?
So you lose out, well, technically at a judicial sale, regardless of who ends up owning that property, you're losing the real estate tax. Because if it goes through the auction and the auction, say, falls short, the distribution of those proceeds is split between the outstanding debt to the county, the school district, and to the municipality. So that has a probability of falling short. If the land bank goes in and takes it, yes, you are forgiving those past taxes. And yes, we are asking for a certain split for a performed period of time after, because one of the issues that we found, not only with land bank, but with any kind of redevelopment process, is a lack of financial sustainability.
Right.
So we ask for that. That's why we partner as opposed to just dictate, and that's why we're looking for also a share of the proceeds, yes. But we would look to assist you with, if that's where you wanted to go, was put that back into productive use, and productive use for the municipality meant that it was a tax-paying parcel, then yes, you would get those taxes from that point forward.
All right, thank you.
After 5 years.
My
So
question,
you'd split it for 5. So you get 50% for the first 5, and then afterwards you would get 100%.
Go ahead, Councilor Potter, thank you.
thank you for the presentation. I heard you mention, just dealing with number figures. You talked about $3,000. Okay, can you give us more clarity on that?
Sure. So
And then you also mentioned a loan. Is there a minimum and a maximum on it? And
okay.
you're not just talking about residential properties, you're also talking about commercial.
Correct.
In the event that the land bank does come in and acquire those properties, is there a time frame that is allowed to those businesses and those residents, or how are they notified to catch up on their delinquency? Is that allowed?
Okay, so there's several, let's unpack some of this. So 3,000, the 3,000 is probably the easiest. We have, just as we're asking the municipality, if you want to participate in the land bank with the redevelopment authority, we are asking you to sign, to execute a resolution and an intergovernmental cooperation agreement. That's, our contract with the land bank. The county has done the same. We have our own agreement with the county, which presets our price for each parcel that we purchase out of judicial sale. So we don't have to go in an auction. If we have the judicial sale list, it's the day of even the sale, the auction. Instead of bidding against 100 different people, we're able to say the land bank would prefer to purchase this property and take it out of auction, and we get it at the base price of $3,000, opposed to potentially facing $140,000. I don't recall the loan, other than talking about foreclosure sales, which this technically isn't a part of. It was just sort of an explanation of how the land bank is of use, and it's more of a use on the tax sale issues than it would be on a foreclosure issue. Again, I'm gonna stress, our redevelopment authority is very clear. If a house is occupied, they don't want us to go after it. They are of the same mindset that if it's a business property and it's owned and operated with an operating business in there, you don't necessarily want to get them out. You want that activity there. But there are commercial properties that are falling in disarray, that aren't being used and have not gotten new tenants. And if your property owners in that instance are not good citizens or not good corporate citizens for you, then yes, we would partner with you to seek to go after those properties if they're not paying taxes and they're delinquent and you thought that there was a better use for them. Yes.
Another question was, how far out in delinquency must they be, and do you allow for some kind of resolution?
Right, absolutely. And so that's with the Delaware County Treasurer, and depending upon, and I believe Sharon Hill as well as Southeast School District do both report through the county. The county has an obligation, and Mr. Miller may be able to expand upon that, but the county has an obligation to make sure that they are informing those property owners on a routine basis for quite some time that there is a tax delinquency. They may have to offer, so for instance, when Dr. Fleming mentioned that there were a couple behind, the county does offer homeowners who own and occupy their houses the ability to enter into a payment plan in order to get up to date. This is after all of those offers have been extended. This is way past that. This is, the county's reached out and told you, or the borough has reached out and told you, and the school district has told you that you are delinquent on taxes. In order to hit a judicial sale, you have a minimum of 4 years of non-payment of real estate taxes, and at that point, you've ignored notices from the 3 taxing authorities for 4 years, and you've even been offered the opportunity to go through and get into a payment plan and have ignored that as well. So I understand that there's been a lot of conversation about the taking of houses, especially in Delaware County in the last couple of months. We are not, I can't stress this enough, the redevelopment authority was adamant even before those discussions, we are not going after any occupied housing. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for explaining that. That's exactly how I read it and how I understood it. But the one thing I want to ask, so you said there will be a contract between us and y'all, right? Would it be possible for us to put in that contract for us to see, I guess, all of the rhetoric background information that that they put in, that the county put in terms of like how many times they got in touch with them, so forth and so on, so that we can see it. Does that make sense?
You do. So actually, technically you do. Your borough should receive a copy of the proposed tax list at some juncture. We actually conversed with our county treasurer to make sure that was released to municipalities before I contacted your council president and said, my understanding is these are the parcels that are up for judicial sale. Do you want to talk about land bank? You do see that as a municipality. They send it to you directly, and they are telling you that they have not heard from these people. Like in terms of what we see from the treasurer, like how many times do they contact those people? We would have to go back and ask them. Like I said, there was 2 properties this time. One of them was taken off. The other one is definitely owned by an investor out of media.
Yeah, could we request that information? Can we put that in a contract and ABC language to request that, to have that in front of us before we do anything?
To see what kind of other information.
Yeah, like it's like we reached out to them 16 times or 17 times. We called somebody, hung up on us. Like, can we get that? Can we write that in that agreement between us, and then we actually see that? Like, we know they saying, okay, they want to send us the information, like you had just explained.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
So that way we have like the real paper trail, and we ask for that, and we ask for that in an agreement between us. And the reason why I say that is because transparency goes a long way, and if you look that word up, that's a major word, right? And we want to be able to, like, if someone says if they misunderstood, if they misunderstanding how it works, we say no. This is what we got before we. Because everything we do is public, is out to the public. If somebody do like a right to know, want to know how it all went down, you can see it. And they say, oh, wow, they got this in the agreement that they did ask 16, 17 times, or they requested this and didn't hear from them in 4 years. And then within that 4 years, this is all the information that they sent back and forth. So I just wanted to know, would that be possible to put, in that agreement? Is there some flexibility there?
I assume there's flexibility, but my general response to that would be that there's a statutorily prescribed process that the County Tax Claim Bureau has to follow. So that information is certainly available for a property to make it that far to judicial sale. So again, Delaware County is notoriously forgiving in how long they let you go without paying taxes. I know when private collectors come in, people are shocked because they're like, I usually have 30 months to pay my taxes that have been turned over to the Tax Claim Bureau. And then it goes, again, as we described, goes to the upset sale and then proceeds to judicial sale. So they've certainly been provided dozens probably of collectively amongst all the taxing bodies. And that information is somewhere. So I guess maybe if we're talking about one or two properties here and there, I can't imagine that would be a heavy lift or a hard ask.
We can certainly discuss it, and our solicitor for the redevelopment authority, sir, is Mr. Bob Scott.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I know that you guys have had conversations recently.
Absolutely.
So
And I was going to add that in my experiences in neighboring municipalities and working with Bob, another component of this, obviously the land bank is sort of a precursor to the actual redevelopment of a property.
Mm-hmm.
Everything goes through the court system, right? This isn't just the borough coming and grabbing a property and saying this is ours. Mm-hmm. Everything is subject to judicial review. You have to check all the boxes. You have to have done an extraordinary extensive search to locate the heirs of the decedent or whomever the property might have been left to, but many times it's just unknown. And I know that I know that Bob has done that extensively in my experience with him, and I also know that there's no interest because it would be impossible to get a property through the judicial review that's owner occupied if there was somebody who was actively opposing its acquisition. So I think that's a very unlikely scenario in my view, if not likely to never happen.
we literally won't do it.
Right.
We do check on these properties. When we go with municipalities, we partner at least on the Act 135. We literally do walking tours of the neighborhoods and go through. We literally are knocking on doors.
But I do like this suggestion though, because it says, you know what, you've got to cover your tracks. You don't just trust the county on their end. We say, well, before we sign off on, let's just make sure everybody's done their due diligence.
And that's why, when you were speaking, thanks for clearly explaining that. When you were talking, like you said it like 4 times actually. We do not go after. I'm telling you, we do not go after. So I'm like, okay, so what could be a clean transparency resolution to put in an agreement where, and I'm sure no one thought of that, but I did.
We get there, we actually listed on that. I don't think that's been seen before, so that's pretty good. I mean, there's 38 land banks, and throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we get together on a regular basis. We talk about different issues because it isn't, to Mr. Miller's point, there's an extremely long process associated with it. So we all sort of help each other. Nobody's ever brought that up before, so that's
And I know a lot about the land bank because I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but Wilmington, Delaware use it a lot, and actually a lot of the residents there they have opportunities to buy properties at a low cost. It's not a big process, but those vacant property goes to the city of Wellington, and then they make it accessible for people.
Exactly, and that's one of the biggest benefits that we see. You know yourself, you're a taxpayer, you live here, we don't want to try to predetermine for you what Sharon Hill should look like. We're not here. That's why we come to you and we seek to partner with the municipality, because you are leading this municipality. But to your point, you're all residents here, you're all paying taxes here. And so when you have people who aren't paying taxes, you know yourself firsthand what that does to your budget, what that does to the rest of the residency, what that does to your community development, what that does to their quality of life. And in terms of the quality of life, we're not looking to take a $100,000 twin house and turn it into a $600,000 McMansion in the middle of Sharon Hill. It needs to fit the neighborhood, right? So we're not looking to create something that isn't already there. We're interested in conforming with what your vision is. And yes, the other biggest benefit for us is that this presents the opportunity for new housing for residents, workforce level housing for good people who cannot afford a home otherwise because the housing shortage that exists today and because of the lack of housing that's out there, especially that is attainable for residents in a lot of our neighborhoods. Go for it. I'm here. I got all night.
And Councilwoman Fleming, she said about the contract, about like every other year, which just popped in my head. How long are the contracts? We get an agreement with law, or a 5-year agreement, or how long are those contracts?
If I recall correctly, Mr. Miller, you can tell me otherwise, but I think it's just basically 30 days to be able to cancel on either end. So we may decide to break up, and just like any kind of breakup, you're going to have a bit of a cooling off period, but I think it's like a 30-day. If you decide not to do this anymore.
Thank you. Laura, I wanted to clarify for council, and you can let me know if there's any room, if I'm wrong with this, but entering into the agreement with the land bank doesn't obligate us to any properties that come up for judicial sale. So councilors, please keep in mind, we are just talking about, do we want to be a partner in the event that there is a property that we want to acquire and have control over that has already gone to judicial sale. So keeping that in mind, because if there are properties that come up and we're like, oh, we should grab this, but we're not part of the land bank, then we would be subject to going to the sale and then, possibly, for us, definitely losing an opportunity because we don't have that type of money to invest. And I do want to also say, in terms of the two properties that Laura raised that she brought to my attention and I brought to you all, one of them is a property that we have talked about countless times in this chamber, from residents coming in talking about the way it looks and how unkept it is. So that is certainly an area of blight that has cost the borough a lot of money to abate and maintain in the absence of its owners. The other property is a property that we talk about these kind of circumstances a lot. The residence that it's attached to has a beautiful facade. The owner takes care of it. That one looks dilapidated, it's run down, unkempt. So that's blight in our community amongst people who take care, next to someone who takes care of their property or across the street. So those are the kind of things. But again, entering into the agreement only means we are eligible to say to the land bank, please take these off the judicial sale list so that we can enter into conversations about what we'd like to see happen with the property. That's the resolution that we're looking to review and have up for consideration at legislative meeting. Do we even want to be able to consider these properties? And like I said, the two that are on the list now, we've talked about at least one of them. It's already cost the borough a lot of money. As far as the real estate taxes go, we weren't getting any anyway on those properties. So just wanted to put that back to the front of the conversation as to what the resolution is that we're looking to consider.
I would agree with that, Madam. I'd say especially that we're not interested in acquiring any properties that the borough itself does not have interest in acquiring, frankly, because we're a lot of things, we're not made of money. And certainly there is a financial aspect associated with that. We're trying to pick up the majority of that to be good stewards with the municipalities that do participate. And so we're not really interested in holding property. We want it to be used, whether the municipality wants it, whether, you want a new private owner for it. We're not interested in becoming landlords at all.
Awesome. Councilor, any other questions?
Well,
Are we able to alter the contract? Because if you acquire it, one of the clauses say that we're still required to maintain the property until you put it back up. And that would still require us to spend money to keep it upkeep and maintain.
Correct. And Dr. Fleming, one of the things that we originally, our pie in the sky sort of thought process is, because we know that that is an additional burden on the municipality. And so like we talked about, there's two ways of disposition, immediate. One of them is immediate, one of them is holding on if there's a larger redevelopment area. The redevelopment authority, if in grand plan, would actually look to maintain those properties while they're in the land bank in the future if we can build enough of a program. So we would need the municipality to be able to take care of the property in between. We would do some of the initial securing of the property, but in terms of it's basically lawn maintenance at that point, right? Making sure that the pipes aren't going to burst and making sure that things aren't going to go wrong, and checking on the property on a regular basis. For building capacity as well.
Well, I see a lot of benefit in the program. I'd rather see it go to a land bank than to a bank. They can put it back out on the public sector and developers can come in. And that's where we lose in terms of the controlling aspect of what's in our communities. But at the same time, we have a way of putting a stopgap on certain things that may take place for the total community as opposed to one property, because we will have a say in how it's distributed out. If we keep it, one thing. If we put it back out, it's another thing, but we will have that control. And it will become a blighted property if no determinants are placed to keep it cleared and clean and up to code, and we'll be the ones that continue to put out money to abate the properties. And then we gotta wait, hopefully, if the properties are for sale, and I think it was a 10-year period, it escapes me, that if it's sold, or we don't renew it, because the property might not sell for 20 years. If we don't renew it in 10-year period, we lose the money for the tax. So if they come up and they sell it, and we didn't renew it in the first 10 years, they can sell it the second, we lose the first 10.
And I just wanted to add, Council, if you recall, there was a property last year, I think it was, that was really overgrown, and that brings rodents and snakes and things like that, really overgrown. VP Hill kept raising it, and our code official could not contact the owner, who was a New York developer. And so we had to deal with the abatement of the property and maintenance of it, and they just could not be reached. So those are other examples. Now that one, I don't know that it ever went on the land bank, but that's another example of a property that we just have to deal with, that does create blight.
Madam President, we have seen an increase in investments, and I'm going to use air tags for that investment in Delaware County by individuals and entities that do not reside not only in Delaware County but in this state, and you just hit the nail on the head, and that has increased sharply since COVID. And what our experience has been is that they come in, they're using these judicial sales in order to buy properties at cheap or cheaper than they normally would get them, and then they are utilizing them to get additional funding. So they're not investing in those properties. They're, maybe buying a property that might have been cost them $30,000 but has an appraised value of $90,000, and they're getting a loan out for that money, and they're not investing in the properties, and they're taking that elsewhere. And we're seeing that across the board, and it's not just a Delaware County issue. And that is exactly to your point, one of the things that we are trying to thwart with some of these opportunities that we have under the redevelopment.
Many times they don't even look at the property before buying it. They'll buy a property that's already been demolished and then figured out after the fact and say,
Okay, they probably have never even stepped foot in Pennsylvania.
nope.
And it's even before then, even before COVID, one of the things that was recognized is that what happens with these tax sales is that there are people who literally just prey upon those properties in these tax sales. And that's all they do. They end up flipping them. They use them, they take every dime out of them they possibly can, and they end up they're not paying taxes on them. So they end up in the same property tax sale that they ended up that they were in before. I think to your point, that 10 years, it could be another 10-year cycle before you get it. And it ends up doing the same thing for somebody else. And we went through a neighborhood with 135 where we went through an amazing process over in the western end of the county in a nice neighborhood, and there were 2 properties owned by a gentleman out of New Jersey. And literally, one of them had, the overhang on their front porch was coming down. And, in order to avoid going through a process, threw up some blocking with the Act 135. I think he put up a for sale sign. But he was just utilizing that to draw every dime out of it. He was not investing anything into that property. It was falling around. It was falling down literally in the middle of the neighborhood. It's not great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions, Council? All right. Laura, thank you so much. We will have the resolution on our agenda for consideration at the legislative meeting at the end of this month, which is ahead of that next judicial sale. So we'll be letting you know what the council decides.
And Mr. Miller, I will have Mr. Scott reach out to you for follow-up as well on the additional questions from Vice President Hill. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Madam President, a quick question about
Yes,
process. I wonder if it would be helpful if, I know for me, if I can just put all my questions out, or either if you give us a time allotment, that way it doesn't feel, I don't want nobody to think you're being arbitrary about cutting folks off.
Yeah, so the process that thank you for the question. The process that we do try to apply here is per Robert's Rules of Order, which allows in the time of question and debate to have a person ask a question and not be recognized again until every person that has a question has an opportunity to speak. Yes, you can have another turn, but we have to balance it, and that is per Robert's Rules of Order. We do get a little relaxed, and we do allow for the exchange at times, but when it starts to feel like other people haven't had a chance to speak, then we'll say, can we pause? And then let others come back, and then you can certainly have another time to talk. And per Robert's Rules, if your comments are different, it shouldn't be a compounding of initial comments, but that is the process that I would.
So one question at a time is what you're saying?
I'm not saying one question at a time, because again, we are all leadership in here, but the commandeering of the conversation.
It feels arbitrary because other folks, I'm timing, and I want to make sure that I don't want no one to think you're being unfair or arbitrary about who you're cutting off. So I think it would be helpful if we had an allotment of time, a very clear rules on whether we're going to be able to ask one question, go around, come back and ask another question.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. This is a room that should be a room of adult leaders that are able to work together. So I'll leave it to the council. Do y'all feel, and this is not for us to discuss or decide at this moment, but I am more than open to, as long as we stay respectful of the fact that if I've spoken for 5 minutes and Councilor Felder is still waiting for an opportunity just to get a word in, that I'm reading the room and reading what my colleagues needs are at the time. But I'll leave it to council. To think about, do you want it to be one question or do you want it to be an allotment of time? I personally don't prefer the time. I'd like us to be more cognizant of each other's ability to speak on a topic. But again, and this is per parliamentary procedure, not my procedure, but I feel more comfortable leaving it to the board to decide how you'd like to govern yourselves when it comes to speaking. And again, but not for this moment. Appreciate the question. And now that pertains to the counselors while we're having discussion. As it pertains to the public, the established time from council is 3 minutes for public comment. So when the 3-minute timer goes off, I typically, as a chair, now in other spaces and places you might have witnessed where the microphones are shut off. from the speaker or it's, lights out, you can't talk anymore. As a chair, I typically allow people I'll let you know your time is up to finish your final statement, and then so that we can move on. And when people want to persist and continue, that's outside of the 3-minute rule that this council has established. And so, council, I'll put it back to you. We can send me what your preference is. If you feel the need to add any particular process, or if you do, if it's time or number of questions, you can let me know.
Maybe we could potentially meet in an executive session to review this in the later on. If that's
We can, and let's first pass. Just send me what your preferences are, and we'll talk about it in executive session if we come to a decision that we want to actually create a process around that. Before we get into the agenda, any other questions or comments, council? All right. Before we do get into the committee updates, which this is very timely, I would like to ask our solicitor, Mr. Miller, to remind, refresh, and actually introduce for some newer council members or community members a resolution that this council had passed in 2023.
So this was resolution number 2022-2023. A resolution of Sharon Hill Borough, Delaware County, adopting rules of decorum for public meetings. Whereas the primary purpose of Sharon Hill Borough Council is to provide councilors the opportunity to publicly conduct borough business. And whereas council wishes to adopt rules of decorum for public participation to assure an orderly framework within which the business of the borough can be conducted by setting basic ground rules and prohibiting inappropriate behavior. And now therefore be it resolved by Sharon Hill Borough Council as follows. Section 1. Rules of decorum for public meetings. Sharon Hill residents and taxpayers have the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Residents and taxpayers are prohibited from making threats, using profanity, or acting in a manner that would impede or prevent the conduct of the business of the meeting. And the section 2 is repealer, and section 3 is severability clause. And it was effective, it looks like sometime in 2022.
Thank you, Solicitor Ms. Miller. Any new councilors need a copy of this resolution? We will place one in the back, but again, this is past legislation from this council that we are definitely evidenced with need to reiterate and bring back to the table for the sake of the business and decorum of these chambers. Alrighty, so I'll get right into the committee updates. For myself, Chester Pike Corridor Improvement Partners did not meet last month, so I'll have an update after our next meeting. I want to remind everyone again that the Bike the Pike is coming up, ribbon cutting that is going to be on May 30th. We are launching it right from Memorial Park on Chester Pike, and it's being shared out across the county. We will have a lot of visitors here that day as we go down the 7.2 mile stretch throughout the 5 municipalities that are part of Chester Pike Corridor Improvement Partners. So please come out either to watch and cheer on the cyclists that go or to join us as we ride. But it is significant. And I may have shared before that when Chester Pike Corridor Improvement Partners meets and we decide where we're going to do particular things, as chair, I did not want to always seem like I'm, hogging all of the events for Sharon Hill. But it was the recommendation that it be at one of the anchor communities, which would be Sharon Hill or Ridley Park. And Sharon Hill was the preferred location for the launch. So we're going to ride there and ride back. People are welcome to ride for a few blocks and drop off wherever you'd like, but it's going to be a wonderful event. And I will share more as the date comes up, but please join us and come out that day. Mr. Ashby's library report. Madam Borough Manager, is the library report in the packet?
Her report was not provided for this meeting. Mr. Ashby will have one available when he returns.
Okay, Mr. Ashby is in Minnesota on a conference right now. And the library board met for their regularly scheduled meeting last week. And we're hoping for some good news to come out of the library, but I'll wait until we get to that. And that is, and the other thing that I'd like to share, I mentioned at the last meeting, April 25th will be our date for the Community Cleanup Day. So it is going to be structured just like we've done in the past, where it's your block, my block, everyone's block. We're asking that people come out, be neighborly, clean up your property, help neighbors with anything that they might need. From the borough perspective, we will, as we have in the past, provide some cleaning supplies and gloves and bags, and we'll coordinate how to let us know if you do want to be a part of the day so we can get you the supplies, and working on some other parts of that along with Councilman Patrick and Home Depot. So more to come on that, but please save the date for April 25th. Any questions for me, councilors?
Yeah, can we get, for the bike to bike, can it be an electric bike?
Yes, it can.
And for April 25th, is there a time period for that?
Yes, so it's from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. In the past, I'd done it from, I think, like 9 to noon, and it was feeling like a long time, and people were already finished, and then it took us a while to, wrap up and convene. The 9 to 11 hours does give us more time to wrap it up so that Public Works can assist with any collection of trash that was accumulated or collected. So I'm still working on the logistics so that we have understanding as to where we'll put the trash that was collected so Public Works can get it. But yes, thank you for asking. It's 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Okay, I do have a serious question. Have Bike to Pike partnered with any businesses along Chester Pike? Like if someone wants to stop in and get some water, you get free water or something like that, or
Yeah, so we've reached out to different bike coalitions and some businesses. I have to check back with our executive director. I haven't seen a formal sign-on from any particular business because the locations in the neighborhoods do not necessarily abut businesses. They're through the residential area. However, that is a good question. We do plan to have some stops along the route in each of our communities along the pike. Yeah, and we will have ride marshals. My bike club will be partnering as the ride marshals to lead the front, secure the back, and help cyclists throughout the middle. We have turned this into an opportunity for community giving, where we have grants and we also will have free helmets available. So it will be a safe ride for families altogether, including the children. But yeah, be giveaways and stuff like that as well. All right, thank you. No other questions for me? We'll go to VP Hill.
Thank you, Madam President. Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? We are gearing up for our annual Easter celebration. It's going to take place on Saturday, April 4th. Our fire engine will be riding around the borough, starting at 9 a.m. and ending at 11:30 a.m. And that's going to usher everything out into the Fantability Memorial Park. And that's going to start at 12 and it's going to end at 2. We're going to be doing, giving basket giveaways. We're going to have face painting, and there's going to be music and prizes that they can win. And listen to some good music. So this is not only for for our young generation. This is also for the adults as well. So you can come out and bring your lawn chair and enjoy the music. And if you want to get your face painted, you can. But we're going to have fun like we do all the time. It's not going to be inside. It's going to be outside. At our lovely park. So yeah, and also too, families if you got a family, I don't care if it's, all your kids or grown or whatever, just come and take a family photo, with the Easter Bunny, dress up, come out, have fun, because nowadays, a lot of people are not taking family pictures. So this will be an opportunity to take a family picture on, the day before Easter. So, if you want to get suited and booted, like our Councilman Patrick and our Mayor Booker. Mayor Booker, I don't know if Councilman Patrick helped you with your suit, but I like that suit on you and that shirt and that tie. I'm not sure if you gave him some pointers, but yeah, man, I like your suit. What's wrong, Joy? You okay?
Thank you, Vice President. I appreciate your sentiment, and I do like the suit as well, and I do appreciate the compliments.
Oh yeah. No.
And I would say, in general, we have a wonderful council, and all of you are just smashingly. You're amazing, and we have amazing residents of Sharon Hill who inspire me to want to be better and dress better.
Oh,
because I appreciate all of you.
yes.
So it's for you.
And with that being said, we're gonna have a Easter bunny that's going to be on top of the fire engine that's going to be riding around. It will not be me. But I got one of our young persons from the community to get in the bunny suit, and he was more than happy to do it. So I appreciate you. So yeah, it's going to be nice. So, just tell everybody on your block, if you're looking live on Facebook, or YouTube, or wherever we are right now, just, bring your family out and, have them outside the door starting at 9. You're going to hear the fire engine is going to be making a sound, woo, 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 all that stuff. So it's going to be nice, man. We're going to have a good time out in that park, So, just come out, tell your friends, your family. We only have 100 baskets. So already we have maybe about 60 something, a little over 60 something families that signed up, that registered. Thank you for registering. If you're in the borough and you haven't registered yet, please do so. And those baskets are very nice and healthy. And I already saw some communication on social media, about the transparency with the time, the official start time and the end time. I thank y'all for that, for getting that, together, because there was a snafu error on the flyer, which was something that was totally missed on behalf of myself, because I didn't, look back at it. But we're back on course now. Everybody knows what's happening. 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Fire engine is going to be driving around, and then from 12 to 2, we're going to have the activity stuff in the park. All right, thank you. That's my report.
Is there a rain date?
Yes, the next day. Thank you. Yeah, I know it's Easter, but people be out. They're going to be out on swings on Easter.
Any other questions?
Nice. Thank you, Mimi.
Everybody
give it up for my neighbor, Mimi. Come on, man. Thank you, Mimi. Come on, well, we're going to put it down, man.
It's supposed to be nice.
Yes.
Any other questions for VP Hill? No? All right, thank you for your report. Councilor Bradford for Shack.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Okay, now last night we finished our series of line dancing. We had a great time. We had a very good crowd throughout all 6 weeks. And I must say it was truly a workout. This was an exercise class, and then they threw dance with it. And we were exhausted. But we had a good time and a great turnout, and I'd like to thank all of those who participated and came out to support us. Coming up on April 10th, we have Painting with a Twist. Our paint night is Friday, April 10th, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Once again, remember, this is free for Sharon Hill residents, and it will be here at 250 Sharon Avenue, 2nd floor. And of course, light refreshments will be served. Okay, and please remember, this is an alcohol-free zone. On the 25th of April, Shack is featuring prayer boards. We are creating prayer boards. So we might need to do that right after that cleanup. Come sit down for a while, be a little creative, some light refreshments. And the prayer board is very similar to the vision board, whereas the vision board, you're expressing your goals for the year. With the prayer board, you're putting the things that concern you or your prayers onto one side, and as they are answered or completed, you just move it over to the other side of the board, and at the end of the month, or if you want to go longer than that, you can see the success and how these things have come to fruition for you. A lot of times we just don't realize that we have been blessed, and this is a nice reminder. Okay, and finally, May 2nd will be our first flea market for the season. The time, setup time, I believe is 9 a.m. and we're running 10 to 3. Okay, and this will be at the Fantability Memorial Park, right there on Chester Pike. We are accepting registrations as of now, so vendors who would like to register early, come on into Borough Hall and see Miss Ruby, and she will get you set up with registration. And please remember, cash or money orders, unfortunately, we do not take checks. All right, and as far as, that's all I have for the Sharon Hill Arts and Culture Commission. And then for the Historical Commission, we're still in the planning stages. Myself and Howard Schreiber will have more information for you at the legislative meeting. And please remember, we're also still looking for support from the community. One, to fill the gap of the 14 years the commission has been down. We're also looking for those generational families so that we can speak with them. We want to make sure that they are represented. And any other information the community may have as far as pictures or clippings, newspaper clippings that you would like to have submitted, please let us know. And you can do that at my email address with the borough, which is dbrabham@sharonhillborough.com. Thank you, that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Any questions for Council Bradham?
I have a question, not so much a question, but a suggestion. I know you've taken over the historical committee or department. A suggestion would be for our next year calendar to have an event that may have taken place historically in Sharon Hill to be placed on the month that it occurred, so that the person can see what happened in January and what year, February and what year, and they can get at least 12 carats of wisdom and knowledge and history for that year.
Yeah.
So that's just a suggestion. I don't want to get too crazy about it because I can't do that. But that's a good suggestion.
Thank you very much for your suggestion.
Any other questions for Councilor Bradham?
I was just going to ask for the historical. So have you put anything online so people can know?
Not as yet.
Okay.
We're literally at we come on board for about a month now, so we're still setting everything up. There's still also, I have to get the email address for the Historical Commission so that people can email them directly.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm receiving
And if you're looking for somebody to design, flyer for it or whatever, just let me know.
I certainly will. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. There are no other questions for Councilor Bradham. Councilor Feldman?
I did not receive a Sharon Hill Fire Chief report nor one for our borough code, and I will have those to report on at our next council meeting. However, I was solicited by a Midwest State Director of GoRail. It's a nationwide coalition that partner with state and local leaders to advocate federal policies that strengthen federal rail, support economic growth, and enhance supply chain reliability. In reaching out, they invited me to sign a petition as a local official, and then encourage the Pennsylvania congressional delegation to include key freight rail priorities in the upcoming surface transportation reauthorization. From a local perspective, freight rail plays an important role in supplying business and residents that they serve. It helps move goods efficiently from manufacture, agriculture, energy producers, and logistic hubs, while also reducing truck traffic on local roads and major corridors. That means less congestion, reduce wear and tear on infrastructure, and improve safety within your communities. Federal policies that support real infrastructure and safety improvement can help ensure the communities continue to benefit from reliable transportation networks and strong local economies. The Pennsylvania congressional delegation, they are aiming to send a letter to these congressional components to mark up a soft deadline, which is coming up past in March the 27th. And this will help us in terms of all the supplies that we receive coming into the communities through distribution in our food markets to continue to serve us without them trying to shortcut that at the congressional level. So I signed my name on the petition in support of that effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Felder. And councilors, specifically the new councilors, so when our meeting lands at the very beginning of the month, the first Thursday of the month, sometimes there is a delay with the department heads getting the reports into us because their reporting would end just the day before or 2 days out of the meeting. So this is standard. It's at no fault of any particular department when we don't have the reports when our first meeting is just so close to the end of the month. Just wanted to share that since we are missing a couple of reports this meeting. Okay. Councilor Smith.
Thank you. Council President Allen has asked me to work on personnel matters for the council. One of the first tasks I'll be tackling will be the completion of a new employee handbook with Kyle Miller, who has been working on it for quite a while. And I'm really interested in it. I'm really excited to do this. I've read the handbook twice now, and I hear that that's unusual and find it, although I know personnel is not all that interesting to a lot of people. But anyway, and I find it remarkably detailed and comprehensive as well as beautifully written. I really, when I read it the first time, it was a little hard to get through because of legal language and stuff like that, but the second time after I was used to it, I really appreciated all the time that Kyle Miller put into this. And so our at this point, my intention is to dive into it a little further with Kyle and hoping to present a final version of the handbook in the near future.
Awesome, thank you. Don't get Kyle geeked up over here about his beautiful writing. I appreciate that you did read that. We're looking forward to seeing the final results that closes the gaps and loopholes that we found in the older version. So thank you. Any questions for Councilor Smith? Alrighty. And Councilor Patrick, Southeast Delco School District Liaison.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight I'd like to share information on Southeast Delco School District. They had a business meeting on Thursday, March 26th. The specific item that I want to share is they approved the budgeting for the Delaware County Intermediate Unit General Operating Budget for 2026 and 2027 school year. The Delaware County Intermediate Unit is in Morton, PA. It's a regional educational agency that provides services to the public and non-public schools, including special education, career and technical education, the professional development for over 6,900 students and 6,000 educators in Delaware County. It is not a traditional school, but a service provider for school districts offering specialized programs like the Delaware County Technical High Schools for career training and various support services for students and teachers. Key functions and programs: career and technical education, offer hands-on training for real-world careers, preparing students for work and college. Special education provides direct instruction and support for students with special needs through programs like Options, student activities, organize events like export tournaments for high school students. Professional development offers training for educators and parents, covering topics for curriculum to online safety. Instructional and management services support schools for curriculum development, technology, and administrative services. The location and role of the DCIU serves as a regional hub, work with local districts to provide services that are more efficient and regionally based. It acts as a liaison between schools and the Pennsylvania Department of Education. That's my report.
Thank you, Councilor Patrick. Any questions for Councilor Patrick in his report?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to mention on dealing with the educational component. The night that we went to the parent prep night at Academy Park, even though I volunteered my services, I'm glad that Mayor Booker came out, Councilwoman Tammy Clements, and VP Hill came in support. It was a small turnout, but a beautiful turnout. And I think the folks that were there got a good perspective of what we do here in Sharon Hill. And I want to thank those folks that came out and supported.
Thank you, Councilman Felder.
I'd like to say another note that in regards to that, we're still trying to find additional ways to assist the school board and our students with opportunities for volunteership within the borough. We're actively trying to think of any way we can. I know Vice President Hill mentioned volunteering for the Easter event, and any events they have. We want to make sure to have open arms to our children to let them know if they want to learn or grow and interact with us, we're there for them for that purpose. So we're still working actively.
Thank you, Mayor Booker. All right. Okay, no other questions for Councilman Patrick. We'll go directly into our officials updates. Mayor Booker.
Greetings, everyone. And this microphone is mad loud. Just want to point that out there. Okay, whoa, a little better. All right. Okay, moving right on. There was no Darby Q Joint Authority last week. We won't have another meeting until the 16th of April. Okay, Sharon Hill Police Department stats for 2026. Assaults 2, burglary 0, warrant services 2, domestic disputes 27, and also note for domestic disputes for the month of March, we are down by 30%, and I like to call that a positive outlook on that community. Thefts 4, weapon offenses 0, narcotics 2, service calls, alarms 41, medical assist 62, assist other police 21, building checks 149, traffic stops 19, traffic citations 24, accidents 12, abandoned vehicles 9, parking tickets 48, criminal arrests 5, and domestic assaults. Also, in regards to parking tickets, we have an increase of parking tickets percentage up to about 52%. So we're issuing 52% more tickets in the month of April. And I'd like to thank the council for speaking and getting more initiative to help our officers to really stand in the place of making sure that there's changes happening in regards to that. So I'd like to thank you guys for pointing these things out, and I'd like to thank our officers for really standing out and making sure these things are getting done. So, and that ends my report. Any questions? Any questions? Don't all speak at once. It's okay.
Okay, is that it?
That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Booker. All right. Mr. Solicitor, you're up.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a long list tonight, so please bear with me. As you saw, I sent a chart this afternoon. It's sort of the cliff notes of some of those proposed ordinance amendments and resolutions. So I think the first one that's most straightforward is the Act 22 proposed resolution, and that's for the public requests for police worn body cam footage and or any other video feeds that go to the police station. The Act 22 does allow the borough to charge fees for the production of those videos. The resolution that I proposed has kind of a comprehensive fee structure. Just started large, figured we could whittle it back. Chief, I would certainly appreciate your input on that as well. I know some folks have 10 different categories and they charge for a little USB thing, and they charge for redaction, and they charge for, and then others, police departments just have a flat fee of either $125 or $150 or $100. So I'm not sure how many of these requests you're receiving. They seem to be picking up in popularity nationwide. So just in anticipation of that, and not only that, but also the basketball court cameras being installed sometime soon, I thought it made sense to put this this resolution on the books. So did anyone have any questions on this? Basically what that resolution is saying is it's just reiterating what the application already requires. If you click on, if you Google Act 22, the request form comes up and you have to include all of that on the form. So it's really by the book. There's nothing really additional in there. Again, Chief Aaron, I would assume we could provide a link or something to that on the Facebook page or the website or something along those lines, just to make it available. It's a fillable form. I think it's fairly easy to fill out. So, did anyone have any questions or recommendations on that, or any feedback on the numbers?
There's also within that act a denial, depending on case-based evidence, whether how they're going to use it judicially in the court of law. So some of it, all the information may not be able to get out because of the evidence in the case. So I think people need to understand that part too.
Sure.
If there is a situation that takes place that have to be intervened by court proceeding, they just can't say I paid for it or I want the information.
Right.
It's not going to come because it's now part of the case.
Right, and I think the act, this resolution essentially only authorizes the fees for the process, and the actual process itself is mandated by the Act 22. But as of right now, if someone's requesting it, they're getting it for free. So it's a matter of making sure that the resolution refers to the act in its entirety. So any of those exemptions that you mentioned for reasons for denial would be substantiated through the act itself, not this resolution.
Kyle, we did have something in place that had a fee attached, because we have had requests by Right to Know before for videos pertaining to this property, and they were approved, but they didn't pay. So as you had written in there, that nothing is released without payment.
Right.
I guess we're balancing what we have for this. We're leveraging what we have with the new cameras that we're gonna get? Is that the intended?
This has a repealer, so this would replace anything that's out there. So anything that's inconsistent with this would fill its spot.
And I saw on here that it said residents. And what safeguarding is probably in Act 22 itself, but what safeguarding is there from just people who would pay $300 just to get something to, use for their own, like even businesses, say somebody wants to get something to put it on a TikTok that's, someone else's image and stuff like that. What's the safeguard from that?
So there are redaction, if you look on the application, you have to have some relation to the incident.
Okay.
You can't just request something where you were nowhere to be found. You have to have either yourself or next of kin or somebody. You can't. So this prevents the media, right, from just from having 1,000 media outlets requesting it simultaneously. You know how that's distributed once somebody gets it, and then that's beyond our reach. But there is a requirement that there needs to be some connection to the specific event for you to, and you need to list the name of the folks that were there, and if there were additional folks that potentially were there, you don't know their name, you have to describe the guy in the brown T-shirt or something. I'm not sure, but so and again, it's all delineated on the application. It's the form itself, which is it's fairly extensive, and there's a lot of safeguards there. But I don't know how many we're receiving or how many we expect to receive. But just
okay. No, I appreciate that. Thank you, Councilor Fleming. You had a question?
Yeah, Kyle, I like that you brought up the fee structure because that was the only concern I had, and I wanted to make sure that residents are not unintentionally dissuaded from applying because of cost. So I like that you said we can dial it back. Would you like recommendations or something, or maybe the chief has something?
So I think my recommendation, certainly not my decision to make, but I would think administratively a flat fee is the easiest way to go. However, I know there are circumstances, if there are minors, you have to redact them. I'm not sure how your company works. I don't know who you would have to, which consultants you would have to pay to do that and how those things work. So I don't know enough about your end and your contract with that video body cam provider. So that's why I think some of these requests might cost you take 5 minutes and cost next to nothing, whereas some of them might. So I think it's one of those give and take situations where you find a happy medium and just hope it averages out. But if it was too inexpensive, then I'm not sure how I don't know what those thresholds would be. If my son hit a buzzer beater at the basketball court and the request was $10, he might submit one for his Facebook page.
From what I recall, it was $300 before for people that wanted footage of something that occurred in the building or that they were a part of, and so it wasn't denied, but they didn't want to pay it. So it was released. But
that would certainly be on the very high end of what is considered reasonable fees from the statutory perspective. Typically there's a box on the fill-in form that says, "Let me know if it's over 100." So before you even start fulfilling the request, if someone checks that box, you can say it's going to, we would, wherever that number lands, we could change that number accordingly.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Or Kyle, you can go for it, I guess. Yeah, more, right?
I do. So then that's just a resolution, and so those fees would just be established by that resolution and stand alone. The other two are, so there's two sections of the noxious vegetation. One is for the definitions, and which currently includes high weeds and grass at a height of 10 inches or more. The code, Mr. Collins, the code official, requested that to be reduced to 6 inches or more. And then the second section of that noxious vegetation would be for the violations and penalties. It is currently established at $25, a maximum of $25, and that was established by an ordinance in 1988. So it was Mr. Collins' recommendation that that number be raised, not only as a deterrent, but also to hopefully if someone will learn their lesson, they won't be repeat offenders.
Excuse me, Mr. Solicitor. Just as a note to council, the sheet that Mr. Solicitor is referencing is not in your packet. It was emailed before the meeting. It is available on the OneDrive for you to review at your leisure.
It's just a chart of title, applicable code provision, how it stands currently, and what is proposed. So Mr. Collins proposed somewhere between $50 and $100. So the nuisance also includes objectionable accumulations, which are when folks are keeping trash or rubble or construction materials or any other code violations on their property, which might be for $25. That might be a major slap on the wrist, or a minor slap on the wrist, I should say. So I think that's where he was hoping to raise those amounts again to deter folks from doing that, because for $25, it's not. Some folks would rather not move the stuff off the property and just rather pay the $25. So again, we don't have to discuss this tonight. We have these would be ordinance amendments, so they need to be advertised by this time next week to meet the advertising requirements to vote on the legislative. But if we still have some things to iron out, we can certainly do so. The next section is for abandoned vehicles. As it stands currently, once a vehicle is stickered abandoned, as has been discussed in prior meetings, the owner of the vehicle has 5 days to request an appeal hearing. After that 5 days expires, the vehicle can be towed. If they request the appeal, then they have a bit of time until that hearing is scheduled for council to make a determination. Mr. Collins requested that number be dropped from 5 days to 3 days. I think there's been some situations where, and as is the case in most code enforcement, 5 days sometimes means 7, 3 days sometimes means 5. So it's 5 days can be a little long. It's a whole week that a vehicle's got flat tires and sitting on it, taking up a parking space and or causing a hazardous condition for a private property owner. So again, for council consideration. And then the last section of that was for the emergency removal of vehicles. As it stands currently, the language of the ordinance only authorizes police officers to remove vehicles, and from private property, and I can't imagine that you guys are going and picking up vehicles and carrying them off the property. So we wanted to expand that to authorize towing companies, include the code officials and any other personnel that might be required to physically remove a vehicle from a property. We don't want that to rest in the hands of police officers alone. I should say I said Mr. Collins didn't think that should rest in the hands of police officers alone. So again, that's just an expansion of that. So take some time to run through those if you can. They're very simple. The document that I sent has links in it. You can just right click and it'll take you to the original text in the code on the internet website at eCode 360. Next, we have a couple proposed fee updates. Again, you can look at those. Mr. Collins recommended a sort of a sliding scale for use and occupancy permits. These are required for sales of residential properties, leasing or sales or rentals of commercial and industrial properties. Anytime they transfer, they need to go in and make an inspection, outline any deficiencies there might be, and then hold that owner accountable to those for 1 year after the sale. to correct those violations. As it stands currently, it's $200 flat fee, and he wanted to make it so it meets these square footage requirements, so 0 to 1,000, 200, 1,000 to 2,300, up to and including 5,000 plus square feet at 700. So as you can imagine, a large commercial property that is exchanging hands, there's a considerable amount of time, energy, resources, inspections required to go in there to inspect the building code, the fire code, all of the electrical code, the plumbing code. So that's certainly consistent with other neighboring municipalities. So please take a look at that as well. And then lastly, we have the draft of the food vendor and mobile food vendor licenses ordinance. As it is structured, there's 2 classifications, one for a food vendor, which would be a stand, table, tent, a stationary but temporary food vendor, and then the other is a mobile food vendor, which is on wheels, a vehicle, a trailer, something along those lines. The idea that I have in this particular chart is that there would be 2 classifications for both subsections. One would be for a temporary food vendor, which would be a 3-day maximum, but you just pay by the day, so you could get 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. So that's just a weekend event or a 1-day event. And I had proposed at $10 a day, obviously subject to adjustment. Whereas if somebody wanted to have an annual food vendor license, they could submit the same application, and that would be at a proposed rate of $200 per year. And then for the mobile food vendor, it's just double that. A single day would be $20 a day, and then a full year would be $400. So again, take some time to look through those. Reply to me independently. I can certainly willing to answer any questions anyone has. I know there's been some concerns, with the mobile food vendors that maybe it's too innate. Maybe the language as written is too enabling, and we need to come up with a reasonable solution to toe the line between violating someone's rights and protecting the borough from becoming food truck lane. So it's certainly not unique to Sharon Hill, but something that has not been laid out in the borough code. And as it stands right now, they could really operate wherever they want and do anything. And the borough really has no oversight capability. So,
I disagree with that. We do. The only license they have is if they went through the proper channels. When they go through the proper channels to go to media, get their permit to sell food, and Delaware County. If a township or borough is having an event and somebody walk up on them and say, "Where's your paperwork? Where's your license?" Having them set up out on our sidewalks and our streets just because we don't have an ordinance in place like this has never happened. When you go to other neighboring, and I don't care if I repeat this all the time, when you go to other neighboring boroughs and townships, you don't see it. You just don't. We can get in a car right now and ride. I guarantee you, the only place you see a truck right now is that Tiffany colored truck that's sitting in that parking lot. You can go to Yaden, Collindale, Upper Darby, Ridley. You can go to all of them and you won't see it. You can go to all of them and you won't see it. So what I'm saying is that these options that we $200 a year, this is just me. I don't speak for everybody, but I don't like all these options. We have events here. We have enough events to still support small businesses that have food trucks and stands and tents, and we can say, "Hey, come do our event." The one event that council approved was Galen Day. When we have his event, we have all those local vendors come out and they set up around the park and they handle business. Other than that, we don't see them, but you know where I see a lot of those trucks? Is downtown Philadelphia. Where downtown is in a certain area, you know? So what I'm saying is that I disagree with that. I don't like all these options. I think as our solicitor, you know, it's cool to like, you know, make sure we're not breaking no laws and nothing like that. But at the end of the day, this is for the better protection of the borough with these folks setting up. We don't know where they coming from. We don't know their background. We don't know what's happening. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, just like we don't have, just like this is a dry town. This is a dry town. So do we got to go through all of this rigmarole because we're a dry town? You know, what else? What else I can say about Sharon Hill that we don't in our order that we don't have? I'm just saying, like, no, we don't need all these options. I mean, no, I ain't gonna say we. I don't need to see all these options. What I need to see is this borough being protected. Them people gonna be out there selling poison. We don't know how their food is wrapped or cooked before it come in. We don't know that. I don't want nobody in this borough getting sick. So at the end of the day, we need to have it where when we have an event, then we hire you to come out. But that's just opening up a pathway to everybody coming in. And we already there's already Truck Town, you know, with all these work trucks and parking here and people coming here doing all these other little things that we're slowly grabbing hold of thanks to our Madam President, you know, but I'm just saying, but the food trucks and the tents, I don't think that's cool unless we hiring them.
Thank you, VP Hill. And Kyle, I did share with you my sentiment. I agree. I think that the proposed ordinance is written from the perspective of how to get established in Sharon Hill. I prefer to see something that said what's not allowed. And this is a topic that we will bring to the general public in the town hall that we do have. But I, as a citizen of the borough, would look to maintain the quality of life that we have here and the aesthetic that we have here that doesn't lean towards a bunch of food trucks. And we have one, and I am of the belief that it's a slippery slope, and eventually we can be setting ourselves up at this time to, you know, have a row of trucks. And I mean, we had one that we just helped encourage to not stay here a year ago at the corner of Chester Pike and Garden Boulevard, which from just knowing how that intersection is when you try to turn that corner or leave that block, that would have been a nightmare. But had we had something like this, they could have gone through the channels and established themselves there. So I'm of the same thought. I'd like to protect this community and what we say we want in terms of how it feels to live here. That doesn't include some of the things you see in city life.
Would it make sense to include a provision that no mobile food vendors can be set up on any public right-of-way, public streets? They can only be on private property?
No. I say no because the 1100 Chester Pike is private property, but it does still affect the aesthetic of our neighborhood when you drive through Chester Pike and you see lined up food trucks.
Well, I totally understand what you mean, and I'm fully sympathetic, but we have no capability without some form of ordinance to regulate what someone does on their private property.
So then that's what we should probably be looking to do. And to VP's point, and that's what I think that we should be looking to do, however way we get to establishing the parameters that all of our neighbors have that limit or prohibit pop-up food trucks or new vendors just coming. That's what we should be looking to establish.
And again, not to speculate, but I'm sure if you do a Google search of Sharon Hill, they see that there's no ordinance and that it's free to operate here.
Yeah.
Whereas it might be, I don't. These numbers are what are somewhat consistent with Norristown, which is. There's many food trucks there.
Yeah, and we have a downtown area though.
Right, and maybe these neighboring municipalities have very high costs, and that's, if it's cost prohibitive, then they're gonna think twice about being there. But that's, if I were a food truck operator, I would go to the place that doesn't charge you to operate there.
Yeah, which is why we adopted that vaping ordinance before we became one of the only towns. So now the vaping shops run to the other towns that didn't have an ordinance, because we adopted one earlier. And again, as a longtime resident of Sharon Hill, that is my feeling about my neighborhood, but it is a conversation that I do want to put to the public. Maybe other people feel differently. And we are always talking about the quality of life here in Sharon Hill, and that is something that I think would change the aesthetic of our community and the feel of our community. So I'm looking to see us write the ordinance that discourages them. If we cannot legally say not allowed, like we would say strip clubs, we don't want strip clubs in Sharon Hill, right? But how do we do that? That's the kind of literal kind of language I'm looking to see. But again, a broader conversation. I think, councilors, any other thoughts we want to share with Kyle now?
I totally agree with you on the food trucks. On the tents, I mean, it seems a little different because, on private property, there are times when, somebody's getting married in their backyard and needs, food, catering in tents and stuff like that.
I think, sorry, just to clarify, the tents meaning like, you pop like the taco thing that popped up on Chester Pike. They were just, tents and food distribution, things like that. That's like a private residence situation that you're talking about. I'm not at all thinking about that. I'm talking about people that come to vend.
Right. No, of course.
Yeah, so I'm not talking about anything private.
So, like one day things that just come up to support an event or something like that, that would be not or yes.
So to what VP Hill talked about, right? Like on Jail and Durende, or when Shaq has events, or when we had the most amazing health fair in this community a couple of years ago, and we had food trucks come, and they were permitted by the health department. The health department was on site to make sure that when they pulled up, they had their licenses, and then they left. But they weren't a regular part of that. So like when we have, and we use Big Bars, who he doesn't vend, he gives away things for us, but they're part of events. And so if we permitted, like we've done this for other entities where they come and they ask for permits to use our park for some kind of event, and if it's part of what we established with them for the day and they leave, that I think that's outside of what I think Councilor Hill and I are saying is what we don't want to see, a standing establishment or just anybody in the most colonizer fashion just deciding to plant their flag and this is now their area that they're going to vend from without us being able to have any jurisdictional oversight over it. That's my thought.
But it is still an application. You certainly have the right to deny them. It's at the discretion of the borough manager and staff, and then appealable to borough council. The decision of theirs, but obviously everyone can work in conjunction. And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer. Just think there's the temporary, like you said, if you eliminate any you get 3 days and you can only get one every 6 months, something like that. I don't know. I don't know
when you look at it in a nutshell, and I'm gonna just say this: when you look at it, and I'm speaking of the resident and our neighborhood residents that are in and now, right? When you look at out of all of the months that went past, and he just popped up and he set up. They were there for maybe a couple days, off and on, right? Lolly do, lolly die, but it never happened before. So now it feels like we have to have something where we have to have this. I'm like, no. I'm like, no. I'm not speaking for everybody here, but I'm like, for me, I'm like, no, we don't need it. We do it at the time we need to do it. If somebody's having something on their property, a party or something like that, that's different, but why would you want someone to set up? Mimi lives next door to me, and she sets up every Wednesday She's selling food every Wednesday, not paying no business tax, none of that. But then guess what's happened when she put that trash out? Now you're gonna have the possums, the rats. You can have all of that. That's going to happen to Chester Pike if you let them set up like that. That's why if you go to Washington D.C., I do my homework too. If you go to Washington D.C., they're no longer there where all of that College Road is. They moved them because that's where all of the rodents is coming from. Then you got to find somewhere to put that trash, put it there. Then at night you're hearing something creepy weepy in your backyard. Like no, nobody else is doing it. Why we need to do it? We saw it, now we're boxing it in. We're gonna box it in. I don't want that. I don't want no if as $20, $200 for the year. Like it's just plain old no for me.
And I don't really live next door to him.
No, yeah. Mimi don't live next door to me, everybody. Just so y'all know.
And I'm not putting food tents on.
I mean, you can ban them outright if that's the path the council chooses to take.
We got a non-liquor law. We got a non-liquor law here, though, right?
Yeah.
All right then. I mean, look, we gotta move on, man. We gotta move on. People getting time.
Lastly, in your packet, you'll see there were 3 tax assessment appeals. Typically, these are bad news, but in this case, the school district pursued an appeal for the properties at 2000 Henderson and 2500 Henderson, which are large warehouses. I think one's in Iron Mountain and another is, they're kind of down behind the community college. So the proposed settlement is in your packets, and I'll have you read through those figures independently, and we'll present them for council consideration at the legislative meeting, but that our office recommends entering into the settlement seems fair from our perspective and would certainly be a very nice bump in revenue for those 2 properties. The other is 0 Sharon Avenue down the street here. I believe is it a preschool or something like that? Me neither. No, it's assessed at assessed at 400. It's like We Care or something or other. Is that a And that would. There are multiple parcels that are listed as 0 Sharon Hill in the Delaware County tax parcel. I don't know why the next door is listed as 0 Sharon Hill, and it's kind of a mess over there. Something we could straighten out one of these days. So, but it's identified by the parcel number, really not the address. So that one would also result in a minor refund owed to the property owner. But in the grand scheme of things, coupled with the Henderson Road properties, it'd be a nice uptick in revenue there, and moving forward, substantial revenue each year, so long as the property comes in appraised appropriately and there's no reassessments or otherwise county involvement. So those will be presented for council approval consideration at the legislative meeting. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Kyle, I had 2 questions,
Sure.
and I'll ask them both at one time. Can you clarify when the borough would receive the funds or issue the small refund? Would that occur this fiscal year? And then how would it be handled from a budget standpoint? Would refunds or the additional revenue require us to have like a budget amendment or?
No, so typically those are subject to negotiation as well, how the payments are structured. I've seen it done lump sum, and then you can work. I'm not a budgeting expert, but you can deduct from some of the actual tax revenue versus tax deductions. So you can. And then you can also schedule them to, if we entered the settlement in the year 2026, to not make that payment until 2027, and that way it's foreseen within the proposed budget for the next fiscal year. But I've seen them spread out. Well, sometimes you really get blindsided and get a 6-figure refund that's due, and that's just impossible for many municipalities. So but then maybe, you know, a bit more upfront and then slowly make payments to pay it off as time goes by.
I wanted to say, Kyle, thank you for this report with the details of the assessment. We have never seen this before. We usually get told that this is what happened and the school district appealed it and this is the number. And usually, and you come bearing good news, usually we owe something back to somebody.
Right.
But I appreciate the details, so thank you for this level of insight.
That's Jim from my office. He's our
Okay.
tax assessment appeal.
Yeah, he's leveled up then.
No doubt.
I appreciate it. Any other questions for Kyle? All right. Okay. All right. Councilor Gary is not present, as you can see this evening. We'll go to Chief Heron.
Thank you. Good evening.
Evening.
Just so everyone's aware, we, not to jump ahead on the agenda, we have started our traffic calming initiative with our machine. I will have reports coming out from that for council in the next 4 weeks. Past usually we have it out from a set area for 7 to 10 days. So once I start getting those reports back, I will get them to council right away. Speaking to some members of the community this week that I had some conversations with, and conversations with our president and the mayor. We're going to be posting 2 things on our, just for the town, just to be aware. I'll read these up what we're posting. The safety of our community depends on all of us working together. Every day our officers are committed to protecting and serving, but we cannot be everywhere at once. That's why we need your awareness and willingness to speak up are so important. If you see something that doesn't look right, trust your instincts and report it. Suspicious activity can include unfamiliar individuals, loitering in areas where they don't belong, youth behavior, vehicles searching repeatedly, or anything that feels out of place. What may seem minor can be an important piece of information that helps prevent a crime or keep someone safe. We want to emphasize we're not bothering us by calling. Your tip could make all the difference. If you need police assistance, remember 911 is for emergency and non-emergency contacts. The reason I bring this up is I spoke to some people, I know Ms. Tanya had some conversations with people where they saw some things in town and they said that they didn't want to bother us by calling us, kids hanging in an area, or whatever. Please, call us. Stressing this, call us. Let us go out, let's do our job. If it's something that's nothing that we classified unfounded, well, it's unfounded. We'd rather get that call and prove it's unfounded before we don't get that call and something else happens. So please pass along to the residents and people we talk to. You're not bothering us, please call us. That's why we're here. Also, something that came up in conversations with the president this week. We had an incident. I'm not going to get into the details of the incident where a resident tried to intervene in something before calling us, and it could have got a little ugly. The safety of the community is our highest priority. We're committed to protecting both our residents and the visitors during every police response. We understand that incidents involving police activity can draw attention, and we recognize the public's interest in what is happening in our neighborhoods. We strongly urge all residents to not interfere or become involved in active police operations. Police situations are often unpredictable and can quickly become dangerous. Our officers are trained to access and respond to these incidents and preservance of bystanders, especially those attempting to intervene, approach, or insert themselves, can create serious safety risk for everyone involved. We're there. We have trained officers to do our jobs. Please don't. We had an incident where the president and I were talking, where the officers were trying to make an arrest, and a resident, thank God, he was on our side, saw the officers were struggling a little bit, and he came to try to intervene and help the officers with the arrest. We greatly appreciate our residents, but please let us do our job, and we don't need residents getting hurt or something bad happening because the residents are trying to help us. Let us do our job. We'll be good. Our safety of our residents is more important than anything at all. That's all I have. Right.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions for Chief? All right, thank you.
No.
You have a question?
You was going to say something.
I do have a question. I know you and the mayor were going to finalize or meet with the camera company for the park.
I am waiting on, I guess we need a vote from council to approve that. I wasn't sure how that.
Okay.
That's how I was waiting for.
Okay, so we'll have to do that next meeting. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Madam Borough Manager. Good evening, Madam President and Council.
Evening.
It's been busy, but the work is getting done, and I'm excited to give just a couple of updates on requests from the last meeting. So if you haven't had an opportunity to check out the Flag Memorial Park, it was replaced. Our Public Works team, I had a meeting with them today. I was actually looking for a sheet from our meeting, but I cannot find the sheet. So I'm going off of my notes from the last meeting. I believe there was a pothole reported at Brainerd and Chester Pike, at that intersection. That pothole was filled. And there was another one on a dead end street. But again, it was on my sheet, and I don't know, my sheet walked away. So I wanted to just share that one had also been filled. We do have a list of over 20 areas that need to be addressed with potholes that will be separate from the alleyway project, which I did provide an extensive review for council as it relates to the streets that were the alleyways that were originally identified as a part of that grant application. I also shared in that correspondence that we did not receive all of the funding that we had hoped to receive to be able to address additional locations. So our engineer, Ms. Lynch, she will go basically off of the initial recommendations that were included in the proposal when we requested the funding to address those areas. So that list was provided to everyone. I would encourage you to go back through and look at that. And again, with the understanding that we'll be prioritizing the areas that are in most need of repair based upon the priority list that was provided for the grant. So just two updates as it relates to that. The other items I wanted to follow up on from the previous meeting, I did speak about the bridge work and the Amtrak work. I spoke about that extensively. I don't want to repeat that. However, I do want to address concerns from residents about the noise. It is going to be noisy because they have to do the work at night. Unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do to minimize the noise, but Amtrak and the partners that they have subcontracted to do the work are aware, and they're going to try to do the best they can to get the most, noisiest parts. That is, the beginning is always going to be noisy while they're breaking down things and, preparing to detach from the bridge area. So again, we just ask that you pack your patience, because unfortunately that is outside of the scope of things that we have the control over. We're continuing to, I don't want to jump ahead, so we are, as you can see on the agenda, there are some additional items that we're going to be speaking about. However, in the interest of ensuring that you have clarity on the county aid, I am going to just briefly discuss that as well as another document that you will see on the agenda at legislative that is in relation to the changeover of bank account information. So to the county aid, in your packet, you will see that there is a resolution to accept the county aid. So our engineer attended the meeting to get the allocation. The allocation for us was $5,000. $12. It was $5,012, so that's a part of the county liquid fuels. That's our portion from the county liquid fuels. So the funding that we're receiving is going to be subject to the liquid fuel spending rules that are already in place for the funding we receive directly from the liquid fuels from the state. So we'll only be able to use it on road projects, any road repairs or streetlights. So we're very restricted with with those fundings. But in order for us to formally accept it, we do need to pass a resolution. I did send notification though to beat the deadline, understanding that our meeting would be past the deadline and they will accept the resolution at that time. So I just wanted to give you insight into why that's being requested. At the next meeting, you will also see a resolution from CBIZ. Yeah, I think it's CBIZ, and that's in relation to the borough's 457 plan. So they require, not the institution, the financial institution that CBIZ utilizes for the 457 plan requires a resolution as opposed to a notice on letterhead stating that there's a change in management and access to the account. So at present, the former borough manager is still on the account. In order to remove her, we have to do the resolution. So with some of our other banking institutions, we were able to just submit a letter of which Madam President could sign, but they're requesting a little bit more. So you will see that at the next meeting. I just wanted you to know that it's nothing outside of the norm and it's in conjunction with the initial approval that you gave to transfer the former borough manager off of all the accounts and update it with myself. Outside of that, and I may have missed some things which I'll be more mindful to document, operations as a whole are running smoothly. Again, requests are coming in and we appreciate the vigilance of the community. We don't have eyes behind our heads, even though sometimes we operate like we do. So we rely heavily on both your encouragement and your criticisms to help sharpen us. So we thank you for being vigilant. We thank you for sharing. And please know that there are some things that we can prioritize and respond to swiftly. And then there are other things that may require a little bit more research, and we may need to put it a little further down on our priority list, but it's still on the list nonetheless. And I hope to be able to report out on all of the improvements that the team's addressing as the months progress. That concludes my report for this evening. If you have any questions, I'm open. Any questions for our borough manager?
I have just the one question. I'm still asking about George Street because I see, all the alleyways and everything, but this is actually a borough street that is horrific. And I know we mentioned it at the last meeting, but has anyone come across any means of getting that taken care of? Not to mention there's still a huge pile of trash. It's still there. I mean, you can literally see it from the street. It's so big. I mean, from Elmwood Avenue.
Whose trash is it? Like, where does it come from? Is it a residence?
It's an apartment building. If you go down,
yeah, I know George. Yeah.
Right. If you go all the way straight, like you want to hit the train tracks, there's an apartment building right there.
So you're talking about George on the side going towards Scepter, not across Elmwood going
Towards that.
Yeah,
okay,
towards
gotcha.
Scepter.
All right.
So is it a dumping ground now? That's what it seemed like.
It's an apartment complex
Yeah.
there, and it's just that back there, because it goes so far unnoticed, that no one will know to report on it. Outside of us who are reporting on it now.
I mean, Tartaglia got them to get it one time, and I think he mentioned something about them not receiving their rental renewal, and they took care of it. So, I mean, that's the other thing too about these commercial properties, Kyle. They're, I don't know if they're paying these companies to come get their trash or whatever, or if they're not paying them, but maybe they had a contract with somebody that comes and get their trash. But I do know we've been having problems with that for a while. Maybe, Joy, we need to look into all of our commercial tenant properties to make sure that they're up to par, because if they're not, when they come to renew their rental license, that may be in jeopardy. And I don't think that they want that.
Would you happen to have the name of the apartment complex offhand? Anyone?
No, but we can get, I mean, Tartat didn't know that.
No worries. I just wanted to, if I could document it quickly, that was the plan. But it's the George Street and it's a road repair. So I can tell you, based on the Excel that was presented for the grant, that street was not identified, nor was it identified by residents, because there were a cluster of streets that were assessed, which photos were included. And then there was some additional streets that were requested by residents. That was not one of them, but I'll have it on the list and we'll see how we can allocate funds to address that street. So Joy, just for clarification though, George Street is not part of that list. So whereas High Street is on the list and it's the private driveway on High Street that was up for consideration, George Street is actually a borough street. So that wouldn't be on the private driveways list that we're looking to get grant funding for. That would be something that we would have to see if we have enough liquid fuels to cover or slated for repair as it pertains to the potholes. Then the trash part is for code and the landlord.
Question. You mentioned, everyone's done?
Go first, yeah.
Oh.
So, Mr. Felder, Councilor Fleming, and then Deirdre.
Oh, okay.
I just want to let everybody know.
Go ahead, Councilor.
You
said
you first, and then Councilor.
The aid that you talked about, is that part of the funding that the engineer instituted, or this is separate liquid fuel money?
It's the county's allocation to the borough. It's the county's liquid fuel that they allocate to the borough.
Okay.
So there's a listing, and I can provide you with the full listing for every municipality that received county aid, and you'll be able to see what other places got versus what Sharon Hill received.
Okay. Now, the funding that the engineer has, is this the same funding?
No.
Okay.
So the engineer,
That's what my
the
clarity.
grant, and my apologies if I didn't understand your question, the grant that was submitted for the alleyways was through DCED.
All right. The liquid fuels.
Right, the liquid fuels is coming from the county.
Okay. Can that funding also be used for infrastructure?
The county liquid fuels aid that we're receiving can only be used for street repairs or lights.
Okay, not alleys.
If it's a road repair,
All right. Say in the instance of George Street, can it be
it's a
used?
road repair, but
Yes.
it's $5,000. So we would have to see what
How
the
much?
difference is.
Okay. And the funding that we receive from the engineers portion.
From the
is that-
grant.
Yeah, is that a lot?
It was included in the communication, but it was 150,000. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to know how far-reaching the expenses would be, how many hours we have, and how the bid is going to be placed out in a bundle, or for that amount of money, or individually, or sectored off with certain contractors to expedite the repairs.
So the grant process, we'll have to revisit that because the time in which we put in the request, the proposed rates at that time may not be the same rates at present.
Okay.
So there will be some modifications that we'll have to make, but we'll do that under the guidance of the engineer.
The other question, do we have to match any funding?
For the grant, no.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
No problem.
Joe, I had two separate questions. One was, how does the timing, and this is related to the adding of the name for the pension, I think you were talking about, taking Aisha's name off. How does the timing relate to Mr. Morgan's name being included in there with his transition off? Like, because I saw his name being added and the fact that he's transitioning out, how does the timing work for that?
So, as long as we have 2 signers on at any given time, we'll be able to continue our functionalities with that particular account. At present, we're not certain if Mr. Morgan will be with us for an extended amount of time or if his transition will be swift. But either way, by adding myself, we should remove anyone who's no longer employed by the borough, right? So by adding myself, we'll have myself and another NJN associate member that'll be able to add and or I don't want to say remove, but I'll say add and or approve any disbursements for any employees who currently have deductions into a 457.
Okay.
So this is really, we need to remove because she's no longer with us. And if there is someone else falling off after that, we'll have 2 other people on at that point. Correct. We would make that change again, but we wouldn't need to go through a resolution just to remove. It's because we're adding someone in place. So whenever you're adding, you will have to do the resolution, but you can remove somebody just because they're no longer here.
So the question is, given that he is transitioning, we don't know, is there another possible person that we could add, like Nafis or something?
Nafis is already on there.
Oh, so why are we adding him? Why are we adding Morgan?
We're not adding, Will's already on there. We're just adding myself.
Okay.
Yeah, we're taking Ice off and adding me, that's all.
Just taking her off.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. The second question is just clarity. The list you said about the alleys, was that was not in the packet? That was a separate
That was
email?
emailed on March 26th to everyone. It's the title of that email for reference is Alley Paving Project.
Okay, I'll check. So just for clarification, what you were saying, that sounds different from what we discussed last month, the last meeting. Is this like updating that we figured it out? Because I remember asking, was the engineer gonna be walking around trying to assess? So we already had the list.
Right. So this was, my email was in response to the questions that were presented at the last meeting. So I wanted to make sure that everyone had the initial application that was submitted because there was already work done to identify. There were photos included as well. Now, our engineer did express that if we wanted additional, more current photos, if you will, she's willing to take those. But considering we didn't receive the funding that we initially requested, I wasn't certain if the juice is worth the squeeze at this stage because we put in, under the guise that we had 10 streets, right? We might only be able to, or 10 alleys, I should say. We may only be able to do 5 based on how much we received. So I don't want her to put out the extra effort to take the photos when she already has 10 that, we identified as most critical when the grant was submitted.
Thank you.
But I'll resend this to you now, so it's at the top.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Joy? If you had a question, we can move on. Okay. Yep, I'm gonna do that with everyone. I'm just gonna reply all, so it's at the top of your email. I had a question, Joy. This is not a question for you, it's to Kyle. I forgot to ask on your report. You mentioned when we had to advertise by so that we could actually propose the ordinance changes. Did you say next week?
Yeah. No less than 7, no more than 30, so it would have to be.
So then we need to put it on the agenda for next meeting to vote to advertise.
You don't necessarily need to vote for advertising a poll council independently.
Okay, got it, thank you, that was it. I just, in case Troy needed to advertise. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Joy? Alrighty, hearing no questions for Joy, we can move to our public comment section. Reminder to the public comment is for 3 minutes. Please ask all of your questions, and when you are done, we will then attempt to respond. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna open the floor for public comment. Ms. Rootmaker, good evening.
Good evening. Pat Rootmaker, 335 Greenwood Road. What is the name of the park up there at, we used to call it Tully Park, at Chester Pike and Clifton Avenue? I've read it on social media, 3 different names in the past 2 weeks, and tonight 2 different names have been said. Because I just want to make sure I'm using the right name, because I wanted to say thank you for the flag being replaced. It looks beautiful.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Rootmaker. The name of the park remains Memorial Park. The playground that's there is dedicated to Fontability and is Fontability Playground. Some people do call it Sharon Hill Park. It can be found on some county sites and referenced to as Sharon Hill Park. But I believe for the borough purposes, it is called Memorial Park. There is a memorial to a veteran there in the park on a placard. I'm not sure when it was renamed. I never heard of the name that you said, but as you can see, it has had different names. I refer to it as Memorial Park and Fontability Playground, but again, we've seen Sharon Hill Park. We had some resolutions that reference Sharon Hill Park.
I thought it was Sharon Hill Memorial Park. And
yeah.
Then other people say just Memorial Park, and some people say Sharon Hill Park.
Yeah.
And I know the Fanability, that was the playground for the little girl.
Yeah. So I hope that answers the question that if people call it what they want to call it, I think on our books. Go ahead, Joy.
Madam President and Council and members of the public, I wanted to also mention there is a swing that is damaged at Memorial Park or Fancifulity Park in Memorial Park. Fancifulity Playground in Memorial Park. We are going to address it. I just wanted to make everyone aware that we are aware. It's the season, everyone's outside. So we're gonna be monitoring playground equipment. We are asking that you please avoid messing with any broken equipment in the park, but please also let us know. So we are aware of that one and we will be addressing that.
Thank you.
And one other thing, in Memorial Park, there is the Michael D. Reagan Jr. Memorial for a fallen firefighter. And it's in the park. You'll notice the red little firefighter thing.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, hearing no other public comment, we will go into our new business. Item number 1 is public health visioning.
Thank you. I wanted to share a brief update on the public health visioning work that was done. We held an initial visioning session on March 24th, where we began identifying key themes around public health in Sharon Hill. A few areas that emerged included access to care, mental health, housing, and overall community conditions like cleanliness, safety, and infrastructure. One important insight that came out of the discussion was what I would call a missing middle. Residents definitely acknowledged all the activities and events for young children and acknowledged stuff for seniors, with fewer opportunities for youth, young adults, and working age adults. That's something we'll want to think about as we shape future programming. Based on the discussion, I've started to draft a working definition on public health for Sharon Hill to help guide this effort, and I'll be sharing that along with more structured priorities as the work continues. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Fleming. The next item we have under new business is Project WIN. So in the packet, councilors, you'll see Project WIN. WIN is Workforce Innovation Network. I mentioned at the last meeting that I had an opportunity and met with actually a resident of Sharon Hill who works for DCIU and inquired about any opportunities that we might have here in the community for young people to work, and they pay them as part of their workforce development. So myself and the borough manager met with the director or the coordinator of this particular program, and they gave us the details. And so the ask to us, which is what you see in your packets, the ask to us was to kind of define what it would look like, what kind of roles that we may have available. And they had things ranging from like type of like landscape work all the way to administrative work, all kind of opportunities. They have people looking to enter into different areas of the workforce available. So we are working on that to submit to them so that they can see how much alignment they have from amongst the people that are willing to come out to work with us in Sharon Hill. And it might close some of the gaps we have around some municipal work, possibly our public works. So more to come on that. Joy, what else am I missing on Project Win?
There will be a site agreement, which the borough would have to sign. I did provide a copy to our solicitor for his review. I can say the program it's a great model. Just it's a couple of high level things that I think you should be aware of. They will be employees of DCIU, which means that they will have clearances and background checks, etc. So we're not getting someone who hasn't been properly vetted by a professional organization such as DCIU. They would also not be driving any of our equipment. So we're not looking to get anyone to hop on a dump truck and pick up stuff. No. They would essentially be working alongside another staffer here. We do have a little bit of choice in selection. So when, as a part of their intake, they will assess a person's skills and their interests. So it's helpful, as Madam President said, for us to kind of define what we're looking for, so that we can get someone who hopefully, will work out. They do kind of have like a stick with it. So we won't get someone who falls off in 2 weeks because they don't like it anymore. So I've asked them several questions to help put the council at ease as it relates to, number one, entering into the agreement, ensuring that we're getting quality vetted individuals to work within the borough, and also confidentiality, because contingent upon what level of work they'll be assisting us with, we want to make sure that we have confidentiality in place as well. So all of these things have been addressed, and they will be a part of the worksite agreement when the time comes for us to sign the worksite agreement. So this is not something that we have a timeline to move on. So if we need to wait until next month, we'll have a little bit more grace to decide upon when we're ready. What I can do in the interim is I can put the worksite agreement on the share drive for you if you just like to take a look. As I mentioned, our solicitor still needs to review it, and if there are any recommendations that he makes, or if you have any recommendations, we welcome them as well. You can individually email Kyle with any recommendations that you see as a part of the worksite agreement. Again, we're not paying them, so it's a great opportunity for us to utilize the skills of young professionals, young adults, and I believe that there's even someone from the borough who may be of interest in the position. So it's a great opportunity. It's a great way for the borough to engage young professionals to help them build their skill sets in municipal work.
Will they provide liability forms for these workers?
Can you give me a little bit of insight?
Like just in case someone gets hurt, like while doing on borough property, like who that liability fall under?
Thank you for the clarity. It'll be a part of the worksite agreement. So there'll be language in the worksite agreement that will assist with that. But obviously it's our responsibility to ensure that we're not putting any person that we receive in a position where they could do something to be hurt. So that's why I said we'll be very selective, right, on the types of tasks that individual will be allowed to do while being placed here for the worksite agreement.
Yeah, I'm sure we won't, but it's just
no, absolutely, we need it.
It's a liability.
Absolutely.
We'll
the way you look
definitely
at it.
make sure we have all those measures in place
Cause they
because
can
safety is
walk in
important.
they can walk in the office right there and trip over something and bam.
I
Right?
understand. I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah.
I think safety is important, so we'll definitely make sure that we have something ironclad in the agreement to ensure that we're all protected.
Are we letting them play with the wood chipper? Because maybe that would be something we might not, or maybe consider. I'm just saying.
I have a question. How do they select these people to be part of it?
Oh, so that, I believe that's actually in the overview that was provided in your package. So they do have a they pre-screen them, and they're mostly young people, young adults that are referred to DCIU in some way or shape or form. Based upon my assessment of our conversation, this could also be something that high school students could participate in, contingent upon their interest. So it's a great opportunity to kind of help with year-round workforce development for eligible young people in the county.
Thank you.
No problem. And just also DCIU is part of Delaware County Intermediary Unit, and it does partner with the schools in the district throughout the county. And so I'm a member of the county's Workforce Development Board, and DCIU also looks to some other corporations to, for places to give placement for people to work and learn new career paths. So this is a unique opportunity for us at the municipal level, because what he did tell us is that this, however way we shape it can be a model to invite other communities to give young people opportunities to learn about municipal government. He even talked about structuring something if someone is interested in doing different roles in whatever their tenure is, so they can have exposure. So anyway, it's something that's in the schools now. It works really well where corporations and businesses throughout the county help, and it's unique for kind of building it as it could potentially look for other people to use with us starting this.
Do you know if they include young adults with disabilities in that?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot in Delaware County.
Yeah, and oftentimes I think that they because they recognize it's a different need for people with different disabilities or accessibility issues, they've created this space to help them find those pathways. Yeah. Alrighty. So more to come, everyone, on Project WIN here in the borough. The other items under new business, we talked already about county aid, so I'm going to skip that one and then go to the after prom. So counselors, we did receive the annual email from parents and teachers club group at the school that coordinates the after prom for Academy Park High School seniors. And every year they ask each municipality to donate $500 to funding the after prom, where they seek to have a safe space for the young people to go after their prom, so they're not out in the streets and being at risk for some danger. So we have historically, as a community, voted yes to the $500. And so we'll have that motion on the agenda at legislative meeting for consideration again if we want to support the after prom with the $500.
That's a yes from me.
Yeah,
That's a yes from
it's always nice. All right. Under old business, traffic calming, Chief told us that he has some street study info that he's going to give us. I did share with Joy, it's a PennDOT roadway, but that new pothole on the bridge. Actually, I don't even know, I didn't even see it again today. But so just, I think let's keep awareness to just any things that are impeding traffic. And in addition, I would like to add to traffic calming, I don't know if this is calming, but when we see those vehicles that are parked all the way to the curb or to the corner or on the curb, I'm seeing kids, having a hard time getting to school because we got a lot of cars parking on the sidewalks. And we also have a lot of cars, all right, okay. Mr. Saget, he's lining up.
Madam President, can you tell me again which bridge had the pothole on it?
The one at Calcon Hook Road between Poplar and, no, it's between Woodland and Elmwood. Yeah. So yeah, traffic calming, I'm not certain, I'm talking about parked vehicles, I don't know if this pertains or falls under the purview of traffic calming, but it's, you know what, Mr. Patrick?
I have cell phones out of control.
That's all I have.
Madam President,
Yes.
I have one more thing. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go, Councilor.
In the traffic calming, and you're talking about parking, does that also include the cars that park in the driveway, but they're parked completely over the sidewalk? That you have to go in the street to go around the car to go back up onto the sidewalk for, that's what I notice a lot of as far as the children going to schools.
Yeah, I mean, all of it raises alarms for me because of that. I see, and I think of anyone coming down the street in a wheelchair, or moms with the baby carriages. They have to go out into the street, like that's just not safe. But, and I'll put this to the mayor and the chief, I don't know if that necessarily falls under calming, because calming generally speaks to traffic signals and speed bumps and stuff like that. But they are related to vehicles, so I'm not certain, and that's something we can further explore. But yes, that's the kind of thing also that raises alarm for me.
As it goes to overall safety of the community, you should definitely reach out, let the police know, let them come out and deal with it. You shouldn't have to go into the street to walk down the street. It doesn't make any sense if there's a sidewalk. There are streets without sidewalks, but in particular, it does not make any sense. And besides, for safety reasons, I don't want anyone doing any Mentos commercials, like walking through people's cars, saying do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Don't do that. Just call the police and go on about your business. All right? Let us handle it.
Yeah, and then I would say, again, to that, thank you, Mayor Booker, if our officers can just also be eyes and ears on the streets as they see the cars just, handling it. But if we find a place for how we want to designate those kind of vehicular issues.
Last thing for me on the high note of traffic calming, I gave their approval today for the new speed sign. Yay. So we're gonna have a solar powered speed sign this go around. Help reduce costs and our carbon footprint. So we don't have to replace the batteries in it. So it'll be solar operated. It'll be here in probably 3-ish weeks. And then we'll work with the Public Works team to get it mounted properly in order to help us with traffic calming efforts.
Okay. And how many?
We have one, and it's to replace the one that was previously here on Sharon Ave.
Okay. And just to remind anybody and inform for anyone new, we had one, we'd ordered it, sat for a long time while we waited for a part. We finally got it up right here out front, and it didn't last a month before a Darby Township police officer crashed into it and took it out. So we filed an insurance claim. Yes, high speed, something going on up Chester Pike. He crashed. He was okay, but the sign was not okay. The sign didn't make it. And so there was an insurance claim, and this is where we are with replacing it. And we did intentionally order the kind that can be moved. So we want to, Sharon Avenue has a lot of speeding, but if there are other areas of the borough, we want to start alerting people to their speed levels. It is designed to be moved. So there's that. And then another piece of good news, and we'll have more to share about that, but we are looking at moving the needle on looking at replacing our digital sign. I know you've heard conversations about what's worth it to repair it or to replace it. So we'll have some numbers and some vendors that we want to consider, so we can and the engineer's report about what kind of sign we want, and then we'll be back with that. But the needle is moving on that as well.
In the meantime, can we get some letters to put on there?
Thank you
used
so
to
much.
back in the day. Yeah. Get them out
I'm
there.
with it.
Some Velcro jewels?
Yes.
I'm with it.
So Joy, if you can look into that with some liability forms, I appreciate that.
Speaking of signs, If anybody hasn't noticed, the welcome to Sharon Hill sign is back up.
Oh, yes, it's back. It's
Yes.
back.
I forgot to
It's back.
report out on that. Yes, it is back.
Yes, it's back. I appreciate that. And they cleaned the trash that was down in the grassy part of it too. I appreciate that.
I want to say this and share this again. I know VP Hill did this a couple of meetings ago, but if you didn't know, Counselor Smith is the person that refaced our sign. It's right here, the picture painting the sign. It's right in our calendar in the month of October. So thank you, because it is very much a pretty sign to see now. Thank you for that. Okay, so I would like to share that our next meeting is going to be our legislative meeting, which is scheduled for Thursday, April 16th, 2026. And then the quote of the meeting is to plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow, and that is by Audrey Hepburn. And it is we had some nice spring weather coming, so we will start seeing flowers and gardens, and it's definitely a sign of hope and tomorrow's coming. So, any other business? Okay, hearing no other business, we can adjourn our meeting at 9:35. Thank you, everyone.